We just arrived in Bolivia about 4 a.m. last night, and this morning this is what we've woken up to. Actually a staggering view with the snow-capped mountain in the background. And to be fair, they only started playing at about 9 o'clock this morning, so it wasn't too early. We'll get dressed and go down and have a look and see what's going on. We've just learned that this is the practice run for a festival called El Gran Poder, which is going to happen next Saturday. It's said to be a Catholic festival, but I think there's a lot of indigenous culture that's celebrated as well. A bit of a fusion. Nice to see these ladies with their bowler hats, traditional skirts. Well, we've left the festivities behind and come down to the other side of town because we're just about to check into our Airbnb, which is in this building here. This is our Airbnb for the next week or so, and it's got an amazing view. You can still see that snow-capped mountain out of the window. We're going to have a bit of an explore this morning. A few things that we have to do. Get a new SIM card and a new battery for my watch. We're actually staying in the business district, so we'll make our way to the town centre and stop off and do these few things en route. Where we're staying is roughly about 3,600 metres above sea level. It's pretty high, and we're at the lower end of town. Because of the altitude, it's been freezing cold at night. You can see it's really sunny during the day, so bright. Still a little chilly though. Time for a pit stop. It is pretty exhausting just walking around at this altitude. We're in the centre of town now. Indigenous women you can see here selling their produce are from the Aymara indigenous group. Aymara is probably their first language and Spanish perhaps their second, though not all of them speak Spanish. We're going to get the cable car back to our apartment. Time to try this. There's a network of about a dozen cable car lines around the city. Luckily a couple go pretty close to our apartment. We're only going a couple of stops, but each stop is spaced quite far apart. It's about 15-20 minutes or so. It's a great way to see the city there. Big open-air theatre down there. I've been really surprised by just how many tower blocks there are. And also lots of sports pitches. Just football, but tennis, basketball, loads of young people out playing sport. We're doing a walking tour this morning around the city centre. This is our guide with the red hat. The first area that we're going to is this main market in the centre of town. It's absolutely enormous, with outdoor and an indoor section. Most of the produce is grown in the country, brought into the city centre from the surrounding areas. The sun is so bright at this altitude that I'm having to wear sunglasses. My eyes were just so red and sore after wandering around yesterday without them. second stop in our tour is the Witches' Market. And that name was given to the women by the Spanish conquistadors to describe people who are a bit like shamans. In other words, a cross between natural healers and people who spoke to the gods. Witches hanging from these umbrellas up above. Mainly now this is a bit more of a tourist area. There's lots of local crafts on sale. Although 70% of Bolivians identify as being Catholic, most of those people also worship the traditional beliefs, so Pachamama being the main traditional god, dating back to before Inca times. This represents a traditional offering to Pachamama with a llama fetus in the middle. The witches will supply you with this, as well as the sweets and other bits and pieces that go with it. Typically, this kind of offering would be burnt and buried just on the grounds of a new building that was going to be constructed for a new business venture. Then asked the guide if they ever sacrificed human fetuses, and the answer was, probably. It's illegal. Human remains have been found below buildings in the past. Almost all the buildings we've seen so far have been pretty modern, but there's a few older ones around here. We're heading down towards the seat of Parliament, hence all the police here. There's actually a lot of police around, and they're all armed. The Parliament right ahead of us. They fairly recently built that quite strange square block above it to give a bit of extra space. And to our right is the President's office. More government offices, basically. And then next to that is the cathedral. I guess these chaps are the Bolivian equivalent of beef eaters. Just walked about 10 minutes to the San Pedro Plaza, and on this plaza is the most bizarre prison ever. Inmates actually have to pay to get in, and they pay for their cell and their food and everything else. So most of them work, they have jobs inside, some have their families in there. It houses drug traffickers and corrupt officials. We've been told we must try salteñas, which are very traditional Bolivian food, a bit like a pasty. Come to this place to get a couple to take away. We're visiting the Ethnography Museum, and because textiles is a big part of traditional culture, we're also visiting the Textile Museum. Of course, the traditional woven fabric is produced with either alpaca or llama wool in the main, and then dyed with natural dyes, which give a much softer finish than the synthetic dyes. What I hadn't realised is that the traditional Bolivian dress is a spin-off from European fashions from the 1600s. Because the Bolivian women have always worked for a living, they decided to ditch the uncomfortable and impractical corsets and hoops, and instead they wear 10 to 15 petticoats under their skirts. The bowler hat is, of course, also thanks to European influence, and both the skirts and the hats are a status symbol. The hats cost, $200 to $300 apparently, so often they're just worn for special occasions or by the very wealthiest women. They're shown as how to make the straps they use for their belts. Pretty straightforward actually, but quite nice. Nice to have a bit of a chat with them as well. We're taking the cable car to the south part of the city today. This is the wealthiest neighbourhood, probably where all the corrupt officials live. We're going to a place just outside the city which is known for its stunning rock formations. It's called Valley of the Moon. Apparently it was given that name by Neil Armstrong, who visited a golf course near here and then noticed how similar it looked to the real moon. not a very big area really, but it is pretty cool. The rocks here are all clay, quite rich in minerals as well. This has been a very cool place to wander around. Very glad we came here. Today is the day of the real Gran Poder festival. We saw the practice run when we first arrived here last Saturday. Now for the real thing. Cheers! Salud! La Paz is basically built in a river valley, so the main road was a river previously. We're heading up to the far north of the city, which is the highest point at around 4,000 meters. We're heading up to El Alto this afternoon to see a Cholita wrestling match. Cholita is the word the Spanish gave to the indigenous women around here. I think it might be quite a tourist thing, but it sounds like fun anyway. This area we're in now, which is called El Alto, is the start of the Altiplano Plateau, a large flat plain that stretches to Lake Titicaca in the north and the salt flats in the south. I think at one time this whole area may have been covered by Lake Titicaca. Anyway, we're just admiring this absolutely enormous market going on below us. It seems to be stretching for several miles.
Excited for Cholita wrestling?
I'm ready. Lucha! 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 Lucha!
Actually. And now for the journey back in the cable car.
It's a steep drop down there.
I guess the sense of vertigo isn't improved after a few beers. We've come to the central bus station in La Paz this morning. Ben's just got us some coffee, which is nice because it's absolutely freezing and really early. We're just here waiting for our bus to Lake Titicaca. Lake Titicaca is just a few hours northeast of La Paz. So we've headed out of La Paz via El Alto at the top of the valley. and we're driving through the Alto Plano, which is this wide, flat plain at high altitude between the two cordilleros of the Andes. We've been driving a couple of hours already, and we're just starting to catch glimpses of Lake Titicaca. It looks a bit like the Mediterranean. It's just about 20 degrees colder. At this point, we all have to get off the bus, get a boat across the lake. The bus will also cross just separately from us. So we're on the other side now, and that's our bus over there, just crossing over as well. There's a naval base here. Bolivia is the only landlocked country to have an active navy. I think they're still hoping one day they'll regain access to the Pacific coast and the bit of land they lost to Chile in 1884. We're not far from the town of Copacabana now, which is our destination for tonight. And here we are, and not far to walk to our hotel.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We're sitting outside like two old people with a blanket over our legs because it is freezing.
But we do have a pretty cool view of the lake from here. We've come down to the waterfront in Copacabana today. We're just sitting in a restaurant waiting for a boat to take us to Isla del Sol. We're going to spend a couple of nights. We've got quinoa soup for lunch, which is a local speciality. And hot chocolate for dessert. And I've got a cheeky little shot of whiskey in mine, just to keep out the chills, of course. Time to get our boat. Feeling a bit chilly, Ben? Lake Titicaca is at 3,800 metres, hence the chill. This is Isla del Sol. We're staying at the south side of the island. Just one thing which we have been warned about is that we have to climb a lot of steps to get up to the main town and our accommodation. This island was a sacred place for the Incas. It was said to be the birthplace of the first Incas. We just need a quick break. It's exhausting coming up these steps. It's just so pretty though, and there's no cars on the island. The Incas created this path and steps we've been following, and the terraces on the hill over there you can see. This is our accommodation, which is good because I'm pretty knackered after walking up all those steps. Sonia's the proprietor and she's just showing us to our room now. This is very nice. And a great view. We're getting a boat to the north side of the island this morning because we're going to do a bit of a hike. Big storms overnight, thunder and lightning, and there's a few spots of rain this morning, but we're hoping it will clear up. We're going to walk up to an Inca site at the north tip of the island and then walk back down to the south along the ridge in the centre of the island. The walk should be about 8 miles in total, and it's supposed to be absolutely stunningly beautiful. The Incas came to this island, basically invaded and settled the island in the 15th century AD. Probably people living here from, well, around the 3rd millennium BC. Last night's storm must have produced a bit of hail. There's a few patches that haven't quite melted yet here. Still a few buildings on the island made from the traditional adobe bricks. We're growing broad beans and sweet corn in this field. There's a lot of potato fields as well, all making use of the terraces built by the Incas. We've only seen sheep so far, so nice to see these llamas. They use the llamas for both the wool and the meat. Actually, Ben tried a llama burger the other day, but he said it wasn't all that tasty. We're at the north tip of the island now, and the archaeological site is here. This is a ceremonial table, probably not in its original position, possibly used for sacrifices, both animal and human. So I guess around the time that we in the UK were burning witches, the Incas were sacrificing children. This structure is called Chincana, meaning the place where one gets lost. In Spanish, it's called the Palace of the Incas. It's quite a large structure, actually. They thought it was 2 stories high originally, in places anyway. It's a bit of a maze, actually. I mean, there's rooms, but then there's these long sort of windy corridors as well. It's quite an unusual building. This is an absolutely gorgeous spot, though. We're looking out across the lake towards Peru in the distance. Now to continue our walk back towards the south of the island. We came up the left-hand path here, so we're going to take the right-hand side up through the middle of the island. This path is hovering around the 4,000 metre mark, so it's pretty high. We're not feeling the effects too badly though, luckily. It's just pretty tiring doing anything, especially the uphill sections. I have to say, I'm not cold anymore though. In the direct sun, it's actually very pleasant now. We're just approaching the outskirts of the main town now, so we're going to have a little stop, get some refreshments. We've been drinking copious amounts of this, what they call mata de coca, which is basically a tea made with coca leaves, and it's really good for altitude sickness. It has made a massive difference for us.
Hola.
It's just a couple of miles back to our accommodation now. We saw a bunch of these mules down by the port yesterday, obviously just used by locals to bring the goods up. Buy and sell everything at the markets in Copacabana. Anyway, we're just about back at our accommodation now. I think we're going to rest up for a bit. We're pretty knackered, but that was a lovely walk. We're exploring a little bit more of the south side of the island today. This is quite an impressive Inca temple. Great location for it too. Let's have a little look inside then. They've got an offering here like the ones that we saw in the Witches' Market, except obviously this one hasn't been burnt. It's funny that they offer cigarettes to the gods. They must all be heavy smokers. This little girl's out walking her baby alpaca. This lady's also very keen to show off her alpaca. Alpacas tend to be a little bit smaller than llamas, and their eyes aren't as big either.
The fountain of eternal youth. But Ben, well, it's too late for you, let's face it. It's too late for both of us.
Well, our time on the island is coming to a close. It's been really lovely, if a bit chilly. From here we'll head back to the mainland and La Paz. And let's see where after that.